Right there, flag.
Anyway. Welcome to the Gypsy/Spongy Moth. And it'll take one more generation for that name to fully transition. Work session. So it's posted as a work session because we only have 5 board members right now. And we only need 2 to unexpectedly show up, and then it would have been an illegal quorum meeting. And I didn't want that. And I knew people were out there promoting it. I expected very small amount. My guess was 1. I thought you were going to show up. And so Tracy guessed 6.
I guessed
so
6.
She's much closer. Yeah. And so a decent amount of turnout. Don't have a formal structure for it. I assume people aren't going to present a side and then present a rebuttal or anything like that. But certainly want to have the discussion and the debate to the extent that people want to have it. So I assume you seem to kind of be the driving force of the thing. If you want to start us off on your perspective.
Absolutely. So I haven't met like a lot of you guys. My name is Lindsay, Lindsay Wiley. I live off of Russell. I am an environmental scientist. So I have a real big passion for the fact that this is an invasive species that we can do things to prevent. But I'm also a community member and know that we want to take care of our area. We want to make sure that it keeps looking nice, that the trees don't get destroyed, that, like I made a comment a minute ago about the lady that slipped in it in the poop from the caterpillars. Yeah, so it's just they're gross and they're nuisance and they are destructive and awful, and I think as a community, if people want to do things about it, we should know our options.
Yeah, good. I mean, I think that's a good opening statement on the basic issue. There have been yeses and nos. It's been a few years that's been going around. I've had a lot of calls on it. Did a questionnaire. Had a decent amount of people that said yes, they wanted treatment. A fair amount that said no. A decent amount that said yes, but they didn't want to pay for it. There are funds that I believe is from the 1990s millage when they were bad before. And the county has organized treatment in the past. They're not doing it now. And there have been multiple different directions that municipalities have gone on it. So it has, I mean, it's been discussion for a few years. I know that sometimes some years people have issues with it and some they don't, because I've had people call this year, say the malls are horrible on their property. And then I said, oh yeah, it's been a couple of years have been pretty bad. And they said, nope, not over the last couple of years, just this year. So I know they move around some. And so looking for whichever perspective of like, yes, we should do X, or no, we shouldn't do X, we should do Y. Whatever anyone thinks on that.
Spray them early May.
Yeah, in the middle of May.
When
usually.
they're gonna start coming.
Yeah, from my understanding, it's the timing ends up being really key.
I have to say.
Yeah, you have to time it for when they're in a certain state. I'm not fully sure on that. I've read a number of things over the last couple of years, but and then also the weather ends up being important. So because you need to have that thing that's sticking to the leaves, that bacteria stick to it properly. So if you get rain right after, it washes it away. But yeah, early.
It's a spray they put down. We come over, it's actual spray on an airplane or something like they used to.
So the spray that they use is called BTK. It's a naturally occurring bacteria in our soils. It's just something that's there, basically, but it's not typically on the leaves, which is what these things are feasting on. The spray that they use doesn't hurt the fish, the other wildlife.
Right.
It's really basically gypsy moth caterpillars or spongy moth.
It's on there and they start eating, of course, doing their number.
Yep, and as soon as they eat it, they can.
They eat it, they die.
Yep, there's a couple of other things that they've looked into in other states. As far as like using a nematide spray that might last a little longer, but the research is not out there yet. So there's other options, but the tried and true, the one that they've researched is the BTK. And an aerial spray is the best way to apply it.
Because I drive it drove around and I've seen some that they didn't make it this year. I mean, they got nailed. I think 3 years or These are big oaks in Twin Lake.
Oh, yeah,
I got trees, I wouldn't bother
trees
trees.
this year.
yeah, we've got
Got
some,
them all over.
yeah, and we've had more branches coming down the last couple of
I
years.
do, it came and use it where I'm at on Main Street, it's pretty thick in there, and it's my, I bought the home, I gotta, hopefully get some trees out there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's my, you know,
Yeah.
I have to look to, it's either the trees go or the bugs go, or I'll have to move.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, we've had
It's
successful.
been bad 3 years.
Right.
Put an ad out of Marketplace, free firewood, you come cut the trees down.
Yeah,
there, 30
yeah,
trees
this-
removed for free.
Yeah, then they take
Yeah.
the trees home, and then next year they got the tipsy bug, because they hatch in their yard. That's what happens. And that's to me a big issue too, is because,
Yeah,
you know, a lot of us have had to have stuff trimmed down and cut down, and it's like, so then, you know, most of your companies will say, well, you wanna keep the wood, you want us to take it, well, you know, and then you wonder, is this why, I mean, people are, I mean,
They start
because
taking out, like,
the
different
worms, you know,
dashboard.
they've laid their eggs on the trees, on the trunks.
Yeah, you gotta scrape that.
Yeah, and if, I mean, and you, people aren't gonna go around scraping a tree trunk off, I mean, that they've had cut down. Well, you know, I mean,
Right.
that's what I'm saying, that's how they're ending up spreading all, in some areas, you know, are saying, oh, this is first year. When everybody else around them, well, they probably got firewood from somebody that had the worm eggs on it, so.
Is there a typical cycle?
It kind of varies from what I've seen in the literature, anywhere from 2 years to 7 years. The most common that I see is 7 to 10. You have they're kind of like cicadas. Like you have cicadas every year, but then every 17 years, they're just
Horrid,
awful
yeah.
and loud. So,
There's a loud one.
I heard them the other night. Yeah, yeah, it was at your house.
And noisy.
so yeah, so it's kind of like that where it's gonna be, it's a cyclical thing. We're on a downtrend right now. My goal for bringing it to the community too, Jeff, was we want to get ahead of it before it goes back.
Is that a vote on that too through here, or I mean, do we?
No, nothing's on the
people-
ballot, nothing is
Right, okay.
major, just kind of talking, seeing where,
Well, I think most of the problem, isn't it, that people have the misunderstanding that by treating it, you're killing all the pollinators. That's what they're worried about, the butterflies, the bees, and that's not even true.
Well, they've come a long ways with that, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Right, it's not
they-
true that anymore.
When I was a kid, I remember I said, come on in, they're spraying today. That's all the other side, no? Yeah,
Right,
we had to go in.
yeah,
And so there was a certain spring when schools all, come on in, everybody, remember?
right,
You had to go in the house and stay in there the rest of the day.
yeah.
yeah.
So they come a long way.
Well, I believe this one, BTK, is old. It's been around a long time. It's just different than some of the other sprays, like some of the chemical sprays like
Yeah.
DDT,
Right.
that were probably that type of thing.
Right.
This is gone talk.
Yeah.
So educate me just a little bit.
Yeah.
The worm is on the underside of the leaf or is it
No.
on the top side?
I mean,
No,
both. I mean, you'll see them on the siding of your house.
Oh, yeah, last year
Like,
they were terrible, but this year they're not as bad.
we
Thank you for
sprayed.
spraying.
We sprayed. We
the-
got most of her trees.
They will go pretty much anywhere.
Okay.
They'll go,
Well,
there's no specific place where you're gonna find them, you're just gonna find them.
they just
pretty
go
much
up,
everywhere.
they just
Yeah.
crawl up.
They
They look for
Inside the
anything.
mailboxes, my.
Yeah,
So
they
has there been any research done on the cost of this to this area? Or is
I
it
know,
a countywide thing that has to be done? Or is it just a?
So the
Dalton Township?
logistics is to a decent extent where you get into it. So from my understanding, they probably lasted about 5 years in the late 90s and then lasted 1 year in 2009 in this area. I keep getting updates every year from the state that says this should be the last year for this area, but it keeps not happening. I keep hoping. But and so I at those times, and I don't know the behind the scenes very well, just people that were involved with it then, the county did organize something. In that we had the discussion, I believe 2 years ago now. We had a meeting, we had a bunch of municipalities, we actually met here. And if a countywide organization was going to take place, and it was decided against. Because it apparently didn't work out great last time, to the extent that the guy organizing it, Rob, he couldn't go to a grocery store for like a month because people were hounding him so much on both sides of the debate on the gypsy laws. And so not a great or fun endeavor. In think it was probably 2 years ago, as they started talking to him about that, looked at taking his recommendations on like potentially where to treat, because there's still some funds the township has from, I believe, an old millage from the 90s, although I haven't actually found that wording, for treating gypsy moths. So before they were recently changed into spongy moths. But in the end, where that occurred was maybe we could treat along highways, something like that. You know, we probably have to get some sign-offs, but it didn't seem to make sense. We obviously could treat on township land pretty easily because the township just owns it. But no one's complaining about the gypsy moths in the vacant land areas that we own. In the parks have some trees, but there didn't seem to be a huge issue there either. If you do the aerial spraying type of thing, then it comes into the idea of, yes, do people have the option of saying no? And then how big of an area around their property can they say no to? Is it just right at their line? How exact is that with the aerial stuff? I know that some bigger places in the area, some homeowners associations, just north of our border in Blue Lake, the Fine Arts Camp, they have aerial spraying just on their property. And then I know there also is spraying from the ground option, which is what you guys do, so from the ground up into the trees. So there is some of that spraying taking place. It just wasn't organized through the government, and then the county isn't planning on organizing anything. But a local municipality can if they want.
And as far as cost to that goes, I know that there are grants also available through Michigan State University Extension, Oakland County, which it actually goes for the whole state of Michigan, not just Oakland County. And a couple of various other things that we would be able to get supplemental funding. I'm not 100% sure. I know we talked about, but I just don't remember what was left in.
About 14 grand.
Okay.
Just over.
Which, based on what it cost previously, is about a third of what it cost previously.
In 2009 or?
Yeah. Based on the acreage of the township, and what the cost at the time was.
Do you know how much these grants are?
Grants are funny, so
Yeah.
it depends on what you ask for and how it's written. I know that I don't know exactly how much they're giving to each township, or to whichever small governmental agency applies. I found them.
Okay.
I haven't looked further into them to bring them to the township to be like, here, guys.
Is this something that has to be done for the whole township? Part of the township?
Well, I mean, those are the practical sides of the decision for the most part. It's not an entire township or nothing, right? That's not the option. Anywhere in that whole spectrum is open. So just part could be treated, could be the whole thing. I also don't know. So if we have limited funding, right, the 14 grand, and we're going to treat somewhere, don't know exactly where that should be. So at that point, we might be up to, and I was willing to take the county advice before, but they were also a little more hesitant on being the leaders on this project. So at that point, we're probably looking at maybe hiring someone that can tell us where should we actually treat. Then probably send out mailers saying that if you don't want to be treated, let us know. And then try to exclude those areas. If you're doing the aerial drops, have to work with the aerial company on how accurate they can be on that too. So
If there was a big thing against the aerial, you know, if people were very opposed to that or whatever, would it be possible to, hey, we want to hire somebody to come in and have the township help us out.
it's true that because there is the ground treatment, and I didn't actually think about this before, but those funds potentially could be used for the people that request the treatment on the ground up to that amount. And then you don't have the issue with trying to send out mailers, the people that get excluded. And the aerial company says, well, we can't guarantee we can hit this spot in between two places that don't want it. You could potentially get around that issue. There'd have to be parameters set around that, obviously, because we can't spend all the money on 5 people that have huge vacant lots, and then ignore everyone else. So maybe parameters on that in some way, but it's potential that the money.
But it seems like that would be the best way to do it, would be to just like with anything else, I mean,
The people that want
people
it
that
can
want to
apply.
have it have to come in and sign up and,
But how are you gonna let everybody know? Look at how many people are
Well,
in this meeting
yeah.
versus the number of people in this township.
well,
There's a huge
right.
self-selection bias
Don't want it, you
Yeah.
should-
and everything.
Or don't want it, should be, we should be.
I mean, it'd have to be a mailer to everybody with, urgent, important.
Yeah, and if we do mailers to everyone, we just did that with the fire mailer.
Yeah, what does it cost?
And we got the cost down. I ended up doing it through Graphics House in Muskegon. They gave me a better deal than how we send out taxes and stuff like that. And I think that was right around $3,000. Remember that?
Right, so
It
can,
was right in there
Sounds
somewhere.
about right.
so can those funds be used for the mailer?
Yes. Well, I guess that has to
Maybe. I
possibly.
haven't seen, I've seen like references to it. I can't remember exactly which one, but I don't think I've seen the original wording on that from the 90s. It has to exist somewhere.
I wonder if-
Cause that would
Maybe.
make more sense too,
I don't think I've ever asked Eric.
or could you put in a mailer with the tax bills
Yeah.
in
Could
for
do that.
December?
Yep.
For December, because we need to get it set up, in the spring, so it's ready to roll
Could do that.
middle of May.
The tax bills could be possible, yeah.
And that way, you'd have the list ahead of time. And then you'd have an option of contacting maybe a few different sprayers who would be interested in doing that job
Mm-hmm.
and, bid it out or whatever. And then, people that sign up first come, first serve, you get on the list first, and as long as the money lasts.
Mhm.
But I don't think it's gonna be, I don't know how many people would sign up for it, but there was an awful lot of them complaining about it, so.
Yeah, when I put out the questionnaire a couple of years ago, I think I got a few dozen
Yeah.
responses.
Well, you did that on Facebook though, right?
Well, I put it on the website
Yeah,
and then
But
I put it on
you
Facebook.
still have a large population of people that don't even look at those websites.
Oh, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they don't get
Yeah,
it.
we run in the same
So the mailer
distribution.
is much more apt to hit people.
Would have wider
The
reach.
post office delivers to every house.
Right. Yeah, they will deliver to every house.
You got it right.
Yeah,
There you
but
go.
I mean,
Delivered to the vacant houses.
Oh, yeah. I accidentally messed up the fire mailer and that's,
Oh.
the addresses weren't set up correctly. And so then I had the list remade and forgot to take the vacant ones off. But those ended up where they ended up.
yeah.
Vance, Robin,
Yes.
and you don't have to tell me, can I ask how much it cost for your spraying?
$65.
Seriously?
Seriously.
Can I ask how big your property is?
Our lot is 60 foot wide by 293 feet deep.
So like,
And then he also did
Okay.
across the street, did the trees on our beach too.
I thought about it, how can he do from ground up?
They use a backpack sprayer
Can it do
and he
last?
does it he picks, the best day when,
Sure.
depending on how windy. And then and he usually does it, when there's a little bit of a wind draft, it'll carry it right up there.
right,
And,
300.
but now granted, this guy is not necessarily spraying for a gypsy one, he's a mosquito sprayer. It's the mosquito sprays. And it does last on the leaves for like 6 weeks.
okay.
It doesn't wash off, that easily. It does stay on the
Once
leaves.
it dries, I believe.
Once it dries, yep, and it was like, I'm
So
not kidding.
that was not the BKT or BTK or whatever they're talking about.
It's whatever they use for spraying for mosquitoes. I think they-
But
Yeah.
it
For the
works.
gypsy monster?
Yeah, because how we just stumbled onto it is we knew somebody that, Twin Lake Park had it bad too the first year or two. And we were having a fireworks meeting and I asked one of the ladies that lives across the street from the park. I said, so how are your trees doing? And she's like, why? And I'm like, don't you have gypsy moths? No. What are you talking about? It's like everybody else, And so we got talking about it. And I said, well, how could you not have them? Because everybody around you has them. And they're horrible. And she said, I don't know. I said, did you spray something in, have you done any, she goes, only thing I had done was I hadn't sprayed for mosquitoes this spring. I'm like, oh, ding, ding, ding.
And I don't know the difference between what the
I
spray
don't
might
know
be,
what they
but-
use either, I don't
What
care.
it
All
works.
I know is it works and it did not kill our bees or our butterflies,
Okay.
so,
And we don't have mosquitoes.
and we don't have mosquitoes, yeah.
You're on what
So-
street? You're on
Get both.
We're on
And
the
it
old
lasted,
road.
yeah.
Our neighbors.
Well, and financially, that's
Summit over here.
pretty nice.
So that's what I'm saying, but I did hear of other people who did aerial sprays. And monarch tree trimming was one of them that has somebody
I don't know.
that
I did something
does
there.
aerial with a plane. And I thought that they said they did some of the subdivisions for like only $1,200. So, I mean,
Yeah, I
even if I had to pay
contacted them.
$100, I would do it.
I contacted him, I think 2 years ago. There was a place, it seems like it was down by like Fort Unica, something like
Yep.
that. And they had a price per acre that they did.
Yep. Yep.
Hmm.
Yep, and, like I said, even if I had to pay $100, I would probably pay 200, but, I'm just saying, that's how bad you hate them. Yeah, that's how bad you hate them.
And there's nothing blocking the treatment from the ground or an aerial spray if they'll do it, because you obviously have to have a certain amount of
Right.
space.
Right,
But, there's nothing stopping people from treating for them now.
right.
So the only
You
discussion
just have to
is
know who to get a hold of and who to call.
if we're gonna do a government treatment.
And, yeah, but like I said, I still think if there's funds that people, that's the problem. I sprayed, now Cinda here, a lot of her trees are right on our lot line. Yeah. So he automatically sprayed everything, so her trees and she has some trees out back, and she has some trees on her other side, but not very many on the other side. But,
See, but my
It
problem is
pretty
the
well-
trees in the back
in the back, in the
are
woods,
on the private or on
yeah,
somebody else's property, and the trees on the other side, those are
right.
not my trees.
Right, and because we have a pretty good fair amount of woods on our last 50 feet of our yard. And he sprayed all them too. I mean, he just sprayed our whole, but it just happened, she benefited from it. And then the guy next on the other side that, your township trees that I sprayed.
You're gonna ask for a reimbursement on that?
No, yeah, well, that's a whole nother story. We're dealing with that one.
It's in the works.
But, in fact, the guy that did our spraying, he was so concerned because the neighbor on the other side, he has those big, they're probably 300-year-old oaks that are along the front of the road there. And he was like, is that guy gonna wanna get sprayed? And I said, I've tried to talk to him about it. He keeps telling me he's gonna do it himself. And he goes, I would do it for free. I'm so afraid of them trees getting damaged. He's just worried about the trees, So, but we didn't have them, like I said, he sprayed our yard and it pretty much took care of 3 of us just because the majority of the trees were all bordering our properties, so.
I think gotta be licensed, they have to know what they do, and they have no say.
Yeah.
No, they can't just.
Well, no, he's licensed to do mosquito. I have sprayed for mosquito, but I knew he's.
Trans me that, I did, it would be thousands.
Yeah.
And she said, I'm gonna get hold of somebody, even if we didn't.
And that's the thing, is that, too many of them other guys, they just assume it's gonna cost them a lot of money.
Yeah,
And
I
assumed
it was thousands, yeah.
Just come to see.
No. So, and in fact, he even told me this year, he didn't even raise the price really because what he was using the price didn't even go up. It pretty much was still the same from last year, so.
One of the 2 things in this country that did go up.
So, it just depends, but, I don't see why they,
Let's do it more. Do it on our own,
Yeah.
but it's probably getting a little bit better cost.
well, them guys might.
Like a group of people.
Yeah. Right. That's what I'm
Got some
saying, if
People
you-
in this area, and we
Well-
gotta do our homework and say. Neighbors want, don't want, the wrong area, I don't think anybody would care, I got 3 lots, yeah.
Most people down there
But if
already
you
have
want
Russell.
to hook up the whole township, the only way to really do it is aerial spray.
Right.
Pretty much.
Oh, yeah, they'll make it.
Well, very large areas.
Yeah.
And then, which is what I was thinking about before, and then you're into doing mailers, people taking themselves off the list, and larger amounts of money because it adds up when you're.
Right, well, and the aerial spray is a little harder for people. And I respect the people that don't want it done, that they're afraid of it, you know, so that's why, you know, it may be a better situation to do it from the ground. And have somebody come along and spray it from the ground so that they're only getting the people that really want it. But, you know, I mean, people that maybe have animals and stuff are more concerned about, you know. But, you know, when the county sprayed, we had chickens and goats and horses and,
Everything.
Everything-
Chickens won't touch. We have
yeah,
chickens,
they
the
won't.
chickens won't touch
They
the
won't.
caterpillars.
Oh,
but-
no.
No, I thought they did.
Nothing eats them, nothing eats them, that's the problem, nothing will eat
Little
them.
article about
Yeah.
a chickadee's seal, some other bird or something. I looked it up, I asked Google.
Oh.
Chickadees use their fuzz for, and another bird,
Yeah, there's not,
but they have no in it or nothing.
they have no, yeah, they don't have any.
I mean, I think one of the birds going in Michigan.
I was gonna say, I thought I saw a couple, but I looked up a map and it's,
But birds aren't around.
yeah, probably not, but like the spongy moth, there are quarantine areas, so I'm assuming you can't cut your trees down and move the wood. All of the whole east coast has
Yeah,
areas, so those other birds. There was a
That's
time
how
you
most
couldn't
campgrounds
take,
don't want you to bring
Yeah.
your own wood in.
right,
right,
There was a time you couldn't take wood across the bridge.
right,
Yeah,
They would take it to the
ask you.
right.
Well, and what I've read from the state is they now consider it endemic. It's
Yeah,
not
nobody,
going
they
away.
don't care anymore, it's just, it's a lost cause, like I said.
Yeah.
Your tree trimming companies come out and they don't say, oh, we can't remove the wood. They're, you know, it's strictly up to you, and they know you got gypsy moths, they know you have them. And they know that wherever they take that wood to is gonna have them next, because they just took all the eggs with them. I'm like, here, you want one more tree?
So it doesn't seem like anyone's against it. Is anyone
No.
against it?
No, we're not against it.
I feel like, at least with the people in the room, I feel like, I mean, these guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like it's more of a logistical issue than a.
There's a decent amount of logistical issue. So, and there'll be one more of these, because we had a trustee, that she wanted to be at this one, and she had another thing, and so that'll be on the 23rd at 1. Similar setup, because we're in the middle of transitioning trustees, and it's, what I've run into before, it's difficult for me to tell trustees to not make an illegal quorum. And since these are open to the public and everything, and people, I expect public to come, which worked out good, even though I was expecting it to be a low turnout, but and so I don't want to have an illegal quorum discussion, but so there'll be another one on the 23rd at 1 p.m. That's why Tracy's taking minutes. Otherwise, the meetings I've had before where I'm just talking to people, we don't take minutes because they're not officially a meeting. But this is an official meeting, but we're not voting or deciding on anything. But I do like to take takeaways as well. And so what I'm hearing is like we probably need to try to find the wording again. Maybe that's a decent idea. Try to find the wording again specifically. If that can be used for mailing, increase, we have KCI send out the tax documents in December. We could send out something on that. Probably have as a discussion item at the September meeting is what I'm guessing. Maybe depending on how the wording is in that and how the discussion goes, maybe have a board vote on something if we need it in October. Send out the mailers for the December taxes, which means that we're set up for whatever would be occurring in spring. And if it ends up being a ground treatment thing, it's whoever puts in for it. We go through the funds that are already available, the 14 grand through the township grant. Yeah, something like a miniature grant.
With,
Township
well,
grant.
with that, if we were to
Apply
apply
for
as a
grants.
township,
Oh, and then
because
apply for
individuals
townships.
can't apply for grants based on the ones that I found.
Correct. Yep,
It has to be the township
the
that
municipality.
applies for it.
Yeah, I mean, those could be.
Township, county,
Put
city,
more
whatever.
money in the fund for more people.
you said that was the Michigan State Extension.
Michigan State Extension, Oakland University, and there were like two other ones that I haven't, I can grab because I was still on G.
Did you send those and bring us?
Got you, strawberry.
Strawberry, so. Oakland Extension.
Well, if nothing else, you send out the tax bills, and if they think they're gonna have to pay more, they might show up. They gotta complain, you know.
Yeah, we're a little sketchy, like it might cost them money.
Well, now you,
Because
I
right
mean,
now, their gypsy moths are done.
Yeah.
And so it's outside of the line and,
correct.
Right.
you know, nobody's worrying about it right now and.
But a lot of times, if you read some of the state stuff, and the state says, "Hey, we don't, super early spring or late winter there," and they say, "We don't think the gypsy moths are going to be bad this year," and they surprise you again. So.
Well, and I know we're coming up on cycle for the temp caterpillars to be an issue too, and NTK does take.
And that will take care of
it.
it too, yes, that would definitely,
Because those are even more destructive than the gypsy moths, and the gypsy moths will take down a tree in a day.
oh yeah, those tent ones, they are bad.
Walking in those trees.
I remember having them too.
What's the one into a spider?
Even when the
Well, it
county
sounds like it's
spray,
raining.
yeah, it does sound like it's raining and everything, but even when they did the aerial spraying before, we had all them animals. We didn't have any problems with our chickens afterwards, whatever they used back then, I don't know. I mean, it didn't bother our animals or anything, I mean,
I don't think they would spray it if, we're pretty, Mesquite.
ATK has been around since like the early 1920s, so it's been around. It's been the thing,
Right.
so.
well, the best thing to do is talk to your neighbors, talk to people that have been complaining about it and give them a heads up. of what they
If they'd
might-
like to do something besides complain, yeah.
So does anyone have anything that they want done? I mean, just out of the discussion, right? That's kind of what I'm hearing, which basically puts me at trying to find the wording again. I've tried in the past, but I am trying again. And then bringing it for a board discussion in September with kind of these plans moving forward.
Yeah.
Right.
And there'll be a meeting on the 23rd too.
Get one of these grants, how far ahead do you have to plan for the
He said one.
sometimes they can take a long time.
Yeah, grants are funny.
There's no way about
So, yeah, it just kind of depends. I didn't look, I found them. I found the applications. I did not deep dive into them because I was just superficially looking at stuff to bring when I talked last, so.
Sometimes the places act like that money is actually there, but it's hard to go, let it go.
Oh, it's terrible. It's terrible.
For parameters, yeah. Usually they have a scoring system.
Yeah.
Sometimes the scoring system makes sense.
It's professional grant writers, so.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
Right. Does anyone have anything else on gypsy/spongy moths? Any perspectives? Yes, no, good, bad ideas, takeaways, solutions, problems?
Are you gonna research a cost?
Well, I think what I would like to do, because obviously I'll do the next couple of steps that I talked about. But if you can give me the contact information for the person that sprays from the ground, I could talk to them about it more. But I could inquire with other people, see where that is.
I think what people wanna know is how much it's gonna cost them. They may,
That's the first thing.
that's the first thing it's like, whether they want to get rid of them or not, they wanna know how much it's gonna cost.
For sure.
Yeah.
So how much is it gonna hit us in the pocketbook?
Well,
Yeah,
so,
we could
but
get
if
a
we're,
square
but if
foot.
we're not, if we're just organizing it and charging people, I mean, I didn't think about doing it in that way. And I didn't think about going for a millage. Millage probably fail, I assume, on gypsy
Yeah.
laws, but,
Can you do like a special assessment?
special assessments are open. We can basically do whatever we want with special assessments. They're clunky and not a good process, a bad process.
Probably how we ended up with the money in the first place.
That might be, because I was looking for a millage, and so maybe it was a special assessment for the entire township, because you can do that. And basically
that's-
impossible to stop.
It's a one-time,
But that,
Right.
it can't be excessive.
I think that would be a bad,
You think that would be a bad approach? I mean, if it was a special assessment that cost somebody $50, they're not gonna get too shook up over it.
well, they will, they will.
Well, yeah.
I guarantee that if it was $5.
Well, I do agree with
Get a
you.
lot
If
of
it was like
calls on
$200, I think, yeah, I would question that also.
Yeah,
But
well, my hesitancy with that, right, so basically the township board can impose a large amount of will there, right? So if someone wants to do a special assessment and they do a petition for it, it's pretty hard for a citizen to just do it, because they have to get a large percentage of people to sign on, legally 51. But usually you want even more than that, because it has to go through the board, there's multiple hearings, stuff like that. The process is similar, if the board just starts one, but if the board just starts a special assessment, it can be stopped by 20% written objection. So if you just make the special assessment area large enough to actually get 20% of written objections would be very difficult for someone to attain. And so it'd essentially be kind of easy for a board to just charge people a special assessment for the entire township of whatever they wanted. Which I just think is a kind of a dangerous direction to go.
Right.
I have to agree with you, but I just, if it comes down to that, is that an option?
I mean, it's an option. It's
Okay.
not an option I would be interested in, but technically
And
it's
then
an
they get
option.
into, anytime you do those special assessments, they get into, well, are you gonna charge by property? Or are you gonna charge by frontage? Are you gonna charge by?
In this case, it would be
It could-
acreage
Number of
probably.
trees,
Yeah.
number of,
Number of
you
trees,
know,
right, if you
maybe
have
I
a blank
think-
field,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't think you need to check into price,
Oh, yeah,
because that,
Yeah.
again, that is the first thing that people are going to ask.
well, yeah.
How much is it going to
If
cost?
you get a hold of these guys.
Well, most likely they'd be treating on their own already if they didn't mind a small cost.
Right.
Right.
So the fact that they're not means they want to come in for tax money. Right.
Next Monday night, she'll have that guy's information for you.
I have it right here. I have it.
Give it to you tonight?
Okay.
I'll give it to him.
Perfect.
What's his first name?
We're making stuff.
Mitch,
Okay, I have a different guy.
okay.
I don't have a guy. So I just walk through the rain sound. Sometimes I wear a hat. Sometimes like, oh, I should have worn a hat.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause that's.
I know, you do, you walk outside and you're like. And that's
A
what,
few times I thought it was raining.
but yeah.
Then you look up
Well,
and
it
you're like,
sounds
there's
like
no
one.
clouds.
It does sound like.
It does, if it's hitting leaves on the
Yeah.
ground, yeah. It's
It's
like,
like,
oh,
it's
it's.
the leaves in the trees as it's falling from the top down.
Yeah.
So.
Alright, if no one has anything else? Yeah, alright.
Yes.
Look at that.